It's time now for our 360 round. For that, let's bring in our panel to discuss Palantir and its earnings yesterday. Joining us, Christopher Davis, partner at Hudson Value Partners, and Meghan Joyce, co-founder and CEO at Duckbill. Great to have you both with us. We're seeing a really positive move in Palantir today. Stellar earnings crushed expectations. We saw double-digit moves in the post-market, still moving higher today. Meghan, from your vantage point, was this the inflection quarter that the bulls were waiting for?
I think it was. And, it's all relative. Palantir stock was down since its peak last year. But, I think what Palantir is showing is that it not only has traction in its substantial U.S. government business, but also in its U.S. commercial business. Palantir has kind of popularized this version of forward deployed engineers to really drive impact in commercial clients at the AI application layer. And this is unlike a lot of other companies who have yet to actually show movement of how AI is impacting their commercial clients. And so this inflection point is real, and I think shows that Palantir's infrastructure is embedding itself in the economy, in its clients, and is here to stay.
And Christopher, from your perspective, does this quarter change the valuation debate at all, or does it simply just move the bar even higher for Palantir?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think to some degree it moves the bar even higher. I like to take a look at things on a little bit of a longer time horizon, just not the past quarter. But if we look back over the past 2 years, you got a share price up 560%, earnings per share only up 244%. So that gap is coming from a multiple that's up over 90%. And that's just, you're in rarefied air. Palantir benefits from being that sort of only company right now that's really implementing AI, like my co-panelist was saying. However, that gives them a little bit of a benefit in that it's tough to comp. But whenever there's excess growth, excess earnings, and excess profits, the competition is going to come in.
And Meghan, Christopher just brought up a good point there. They're sort of in rarefied air, and you mentioned their commercial business, their U.S. commercial business, growth of 137% in terms of their revenue number. That's certainly not typical. What does that tell you about where Palantir sits in the AI stack?
It's quite extraordinary. And I think this shows that the value accrues to the companies who can actually help businesses and consumers show real impact in the real world. There has been an enormous amount of hype around what AI can do for all of us, but a lot of business leaders are still struggling to show that impact in their bottom line. And what Palantir has done is actually go forward with these AI platform boot camps. It's forward deployed engineers to actually teach its clients how to get benefit out of AI and how to get benefit out of its own technology. And that has significantly shortened the sales cycle. It's significantly increased the buy rate. And as a result, it is leading to a more sustainable business model than a lot of the pure AI companies out there.
And Christopher, when we see growth like this concentrated in one specific geography and one specific segment, they even cited international growth was not the strongest here, but U.S. incredibly strong. Do you view that as a strength, or is that a risk at this stage?
I think it's a risk. I mean, the U.S. government, one of their biggest clients, needs all the help it can get with technology. So I think there's it's a ripe area for them. What I do gives me pause and what makes me nervous about Palantir is, you have a very charismatic leader who's particularly outspoken. He's built a heck of a business, and he seems to be very much aligned with the current administration. It's possible that in future administrations, Palantir may not jive as well, and they may not be as big a beneficiary on the contracting front. And because so much of Palantir's valuation right now is built into earnings that are coming, well beyond the current presidential cycle, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, that could be a meaningful headwind for them in the future.
And Meghan, with that international growth still being somewhat weak here, and we are seeing a lot of these geopolitical risks rising up here, how important is global suspension to Palantir being able to sustain this impressive growth?
When a stock is this expensive, any stumble can lead to a decline in the stock price. That said, I think the fact that their commercial business is growing as quickly as it is, albeit the U.S. commercial business, international is still soft, But the fact that they have so much traction within the commercial space is hopeful news for Palantir. It shows that their hopes are not just pegged to any one administration, are not just pegged to any one particular series of policies, that there really is appetite within this B2B space to show true productivity, true enhancements in efficacy thanks to AI. We see this at my own company, Duckbill. If you can actually show customers that you are improving their lives through AI today, there's an extraordinary market for that.
And Christopher, we're running really tight on time, but I do want one more thought from you on another figure I thought was eye-popping. Their Rule of 40 score, 127%. I know I asked you about the valuation here. How do you think that that metric changes how investors are looking at the valuation for Palantir?
I think it's what keeps, your high growth investors in the stock. If they can keep that up, and the story continues, the stock will hold on. Like you said, any sort of stumble, and it's going to be very tough for Palantir.
Well, Palantir having a good day. We're up more than 5% on the heels of those earnings. Want to thank you both for being with us to break them down. Christopher Davis from Hudson Value Partners and Meghan Joyce, CEO of Duckbill.